Hello, and welcome to this roundup of historical romance books with the word rake in the title. I'm Olivia, your favorite resource for book recommendations you can easily screenshot, and you're watching Random Olive Reads. Lady and the Rake by Annabelle Anders is book 6 of the Lord Love a Lady series. A widow is ready to remarry in order to potentially have a child, but she wants to make sure her much older fiance still has the ability to perform. So she sneaks into his bedchamber during a house party, hoping to prove his prowess, and instead comes across a strapping young man. That young man turns out to be the fiance's rakish nephew, who continues to flirt with the lady throughout the party. Odds on the Rake by Sophie Darling is book 1 of the All's Fair in Love and Racing series. Gemma dresses up as a stable hand to infiltrate the Duke of Rakesley's racing stable and collect information for a rival horseman. Gemma and her twin brother were the illegitimate children of an earl and are running away from his overbearing care. When Gemma gets to the Duke's stables, she has a way with the wild and untrained horse and quickly moves up to becoming a jockey. While Rake runs an impressive stable, he's curious about the new stable hand, Gem. When he finally realizes that his new employee is a woman, and a very attractive one, they start a steamy affair that keeps her feeling guilty about her initial motives for being there. The Perfect Rake by Anne Gracie is book 1 of the Meridew series. The oldest sister of the Meridew siblings is generally known as the least beautiful of the bunch. With impoverished circumstances, she decides to fake an engagement to a duke so that her sisters will have a better chance of marrying well. When she storms into the duke's house, his cousin is there to meet her and is pretty much besotted with her at first glance. This book has my favorite subplot where the guy thinks the lady is beautiful and doesn't understand why anyone else would think her plain. The Rake Hell of Roth by Amelie Howard is book 2 of the Regency Rogues series. At the end of book 1 of the series, we see Isabel and Winter get married, basically saving her from the unwanted attentions of a villain. And we're thinking everything will be happily ever after for them. Except it's not. We're 3 years later, and Isabel has basically been left in the country by herself, while her husband goes back to London to run his gaming hell and being a rake with scandalous reputation. She decides to confront him and try to make a real marriage of the deal, but he's all afraid of feelings, so he pushes her away until one day he doesn't. The Rakes' Insatiable Bride by Caroline Lee is book 3 of the Those Kilted Bastards series. Jade seeks a knight with a courtesan so that she can lose her virginity on her own terms before her guardian/uncle forces her to marry. Cameron is a charming rake of a man who plays up his debauched reputation by giving women pleasure. Both are victims of a marriage by proxy scheme that surprisingly brings them back together and forces them to stay in the same cottage during a rainstorm. While Jade had no intention of getting married, she's slowly falling in love with Cam as they spend more time together. It's an isolated little vacation for them until the storm breaks, and then we have to clear up the mess. The Good Girl's Guide to Rakes by Eva Lee is book 1 of the Last Chance Scoundrel series. After younger sons of an earl, Kieran and Finn, assist their friend Dom in jilting their sister Willa at the altar, both families set down an ultimatum for these three scoundrels. Each one needs to marry a respectable woman within 12 months, or they all get financially cut off. Kieran's book is up first, followed by Finn, and then Dom. As a terrible scoundrel, Kieran doesn't have the best reputation among respectable ladies of the ton, so he needs some assistance gaining entry into polite events. He asks Dom's sister Celeste, the epitome of a proper young woman, to help him get into these events so that he can find a suitable bride. She refuses at first, but when her father insists that she has to marry her suitor at the end of the season, she decides to strike a bargain with Kieran. She'll help him if he takes her to scandalous places at night. Of course, in spending all this time together, they grow close and fall in love, and obviously they were already attracted to each other from the start. A Rake's Guide to Seduction by Caroline Linden is book 3 of the Reese Family Trilogy series. Celia is the younger sister of a duke and in her first season and enjoying the balls and parties and suitors. She is rescued from a proposal by her brother's scandalous friend Anthony and is somewhat intrigued by him. Anthony is the heir to an earl who had cast him out and cut off any financial support, so he needs to gamble and make investments for his living. Anthony seems to believe he's an unworthy suitor for Celia, but still takes a chance and asks the Duke for permission to court her. Unfortunately, he's too late, and Celia is already engaged to somebody else. We learn more about Celia's engagement and marriage through her diary entries up until her husband's death 4 years later. We pick up the story again when Celia is out of mourning and her mother has arranged a house party to lift her spirits. There, Anthony and Celia slowly reconnect as much as he tries to avoid her due to his own scandalous reputation. Nine Rules to Break When Romancing a Rake by Sarah MacLean is book one of the Love by Numbers series. This one finds spinster Callie facing a life in the country after her younger sister marries, so she makes a bucket list of London adventures to complete before she goes. One of the items is to kiss a gentleman passionately, so she sneaks into her longtime crush's house and kisses him. And then he offers to assist her in crossing off items on her list. So, of course, they spend lots of time together doing things that proper ladies should not be doing, like fencing, smoking, sneaking into clubs to gamble, etc. This was a really fun book and covers a lot of the usual locations in a typical Regency romance. Rumors in a Rake by Jane Maguire is book two of the Inconveniently Wed series. Catherine is the younger sister of an earl and has been shy throughout her season. We start this book at a house party where Catherine is attending with her friend Lavinia, and Catherine is trying to make a match with a gentleman who is quiet and bookish like she is. Philip is a dissolute rake, third son of a marquess, but somehow now the heir due to his older brother's death. With the Marquess in ill health, Philip's mother decides to drag Philip to this house party to select a bride. Catherine wants to avoid Philip after she had previously witnessed him debauching a lady at a ball, but she's still very much attracted to each other. They keep bumping into each other at this house party, and Philip ends up rescuing Catherine from unwanted attentions of another man, ultimately leading to their marriage. After that, we have both people kind of keeping secrets from each other, but somehow having it all work out. The Rakes by Scarlett Peckham is book one of the Society of Sirens series. We sort of flip the script here because the female character is the Rake. Serafina is a woman with a scandalous reputation and treated horribly by people in town. She is setting out to write her memoirs and expose the horrible man who ruined her. Somehow, while on her writing retreat, she meets Adam, a quiet and serious architect with two young kids. They decide to start an affair, but they each have tons of emotional baggage, so it definitely takes a lot longer to open up to each other with their feelings and history beyond just their physical attraction. The Rebel and the Rake by Emily Sullivan is book two of the League of Scoundrels series. Sylvia is a ladies' companion at a house party, being blackmailed into stealing documents based on her own secrets and history. Rafe is a guest there as well, but also secretly running an investigation because he's actually a spy of some sort. As he sees Sylvia behaving strangely, of course, he ends up being suspicious of her. These two mostly just keep bumping into each other and getting in each other's way, but are mostly afraid of having their secrets discovered. Kiss the Rake Hello by Tracy Sumner is book 13 of the Wicked Widows League series. This one's a pretty quick novella where a widow, Alexandra, and her childhood neighbor, Cortland, meet again. He's had a crush on her forever, and she's looking for a night of pleasure after her disappointing marriage. This is a pretty uncomplicated plot, but sweet to see Court being shy and fumbling around the woman he's loved since he was a kid, playing pranks on her. This was super short to read and enjoy. Thanks so much for watching this video. Links to all of the books are in the description box. Like and subscribe to get updates, and you can follow me on Instagram at randomolive.